Morning, and welcome to the 11th China and Globalization Forum.
我是中央广播电视总台 CGTN 法语频道主持人、评论员张。
My name is Zhang Shanhui, and also a associate research fellow of CCG.
CGTN's news anchor for CGTN French channel and also news commentators in CGTN French channel of China Media Group. And I'm also part of the CCG, part-time researcher at CCG. It's a great pleasure to join you for this 2 days to come.
And my name is Joshua Dominic. I'm the founder of a China-based nonprofit organization and a research fellow also at CCG. And it is once again my pleasure to be at the China Globalization Forum. 大家好，我叫谭家旭，我是一名在北京做公益事业的工作者，以及一个 CCG 的研究员。我也非常高兴再一次来到我们的中国与全球化论坛。
中国与全球化论坛呢，于2015年的时候发起，至今已经成为了一个重要的年。
Globalization Forum is in its 11th year and has become one of the most respected gatherings because it's time focusing on globalization.
要是那个快到那个9:15了，你就给我9点半再接我就行。不用，没事，我就9点15行。这还不练说什么时候
两天呢，我们将聚焦多元主义、全球治理、大国竞争时代的中美贸易战趋势，以及中国与全球南方在国际世界中保持国际交往的作用。同时，今天我们也围绕中欧50年以及中东新崛起的聚焦全球联合。
他们不是自己在办。Let's welcome Mabel, Miao, co-founder and secretary general of CCG.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, good morning. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 11th China and Globalization Forum. This year, we are privileged to co-host the forum once again with the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries. Our heartfelt thanks also go to our co-organizers, the Academy of Contemporary China and World Studies, and the China-United States Exchange Foundation, and to our partners, including the Adena Foundation, the Armacy Foundation, the Center on Regulation in Europe, and the Doha Forum, and the Asia Society. The steadfast support and collaboration have been crucial to making this forum a meaningful space for dialogue. We are honored to welcome policymakers and diplomats to this forum, along with experts from think tanks across Asia, Europe, the American, and Africa. Professionals from various international organizations, NGOs, and foundations, scholars from over 20 universities worldwide, executives from more than 30 multinational companies, representatives from several international and domestic outlets, and officials from relevant Chinese government departments. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Huiyao, founder and president of Center for China and Globalization, and the former counselor to China's State Council, to deliver his welcome remarks. Dr. Wang, please.
Ambassador Secretary Zhang Jun, President SHEN, President Yu, President Chau, Her Excellency Minister Kyung-wha Kang, Ambassador Declan, Kelleher, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's really extremely honored to welcome all to this 11th China and Globalization Forum, right here in the heart of the Beijing CBD district. This forum is jointly convened by Center for China and Globalization and the China People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, and co-organized by Contemporary China and World Studies and China-United States Exchange Foundation. So thank you all for supporting this conference. Over the past 10 years, this forum has brought together leaders, policymakers, experts, practitioners from around the world to discuss the major trends shaping globalization, global governance, and China's roles in the world. For the last 10 years, there's a non-stop, not even during the COVID, we hold this annual forum every year. So this is the 11th time we're holding this today. So as we convene the 11th edition of this forum, the international environment is marked by unprecedented complexity and challenges. So for instance, the China-US relation remains at a critical juncture. The recent escalation of trade tensions continues to disrupt the global trade supply chains and increase the economic uncertainty for the whole world. While we've seen some major progress at the Geneva trade talks, we hope it will continue. Beyond trade, conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East are continue to imposing huge humanitarian crises and tragedies, which is witnessed by the whole world. At the same time, global governance structure face serious pressure. Multilateralism is being tested by unilateral actions, geopolitical rivalry, and fragmented international cooperation. Issues such as climate change, global health, global debt, and economic recovery requires urgent collective action, and particularly global peace. Yet consensus is often lacking. Meanwhile, the Global South's role in expanding countries in Asia, African, Latin American, and the Middle East are now account for growing share of global population, economic growth, and the international impact. So their voices are increasingly critical in discussions about reforming the global multilateralism and become more inclusive and equitable. So against this backdrop, we are honored to be joined by more than 300 distinguished guests gathered from more than 60 countries, including policymakers, diplomats, representatives of international organizations, renowned think tank experts, academics, corporate executives, and representatives from leading Chinese and international media outlets. So over the next 2 days, we have a very fruitful program. We'll explore the broad range of pressing issues, including the renewal of global governance and multilateralism in uncertain time, like today, navigating the evolving China-US relations, but also the improving China-EU relations. Also, China increasing engagement with the Global South and the Middle East, and also global governance in high-tech, AI, and the regulatory areas. As the organizer and also a dedicated convener of the Global Dialogue, Center for China and Globalization is one of the top 100 think tanks in the world, ranked the top 100 think tanks, and is the only think tank in China that has the special consultant status of the United Nations. So we are committed to build bridges across the nations and cultures, foster mutual understanding, and continue China's wisdom and experience to the world. And so let's cherish that the founding of the United Nations 80 years ago marked a solemn commitment to peace, cooperation, and multilateralism, values that remain at a vital core value today as ever. It is our shared responsibility to uphold and renew this commitment in the face of unprecedented complex challenges. So once again, I want to express my sincere thanks to all of you participating. We have a wonderful participants from around the world and also from China. So I look forward to your insightful contributions to the rich discussions. And also I would really to encourage you to listen carefully the keynote that we're going to have this morning. And also we're going to help us strengthen the capability of humanity in meeting those challenging times. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. Now, representing our co-convener, I'm delighted to invite Mr. Shen Xin, Vice President of the Chinese People Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, to stage for his welcome remarks. Please.
Actually, I don't expect participants from other countries more than the participants for China, but I have only speech in Chinese in my hand, so I have to ask you to put your earphones and for interpretation. 女士们、先生们、朋友们。
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a great pleasure for me to attend the 11th China and Globalization Forum. On behalf of the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, I would like to extend a warm welcome and sincere greetings to all participants. When it comes to globalization, I can't help but think of a book that was all the rage 20 years ago. The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. In this book, Mr. Friedman revealed a phenomenon he observed during his travels around the world. Globalization was making the world flatter. He also analyzed 10 factors that were flattening the world, including the end of the Cold War and the rise of the Internet. At that time, I devoured this book, yearning for a flatter world. 20 years later, I deliberately read this book again and found that his vision for the future was not bold enough. Over the past 20 years, disruptive technologies have emerged one after another. Technological iterations have been dazzling, and globalization has advanced at a speed beyond our imagination, profoundly influencing and changing the direction of the world's progress. The world is flatter than Mr. Friedman's imagined. Moreover, what Mr. Friedman didn't expect was that the developed countries, represented by the United States, which initiated, promoted, and set the rules for globalization, are now facing the impact of anti-globalization sentiments and are competing to introduce various measures trying to reverse globalization. What's wrong with globalization? Isn't a flatter world good to people? Today, I would like to take this opportunity to share some of my thoughts and views on these questions, hoping to contribute to the discussions at this forum. Looking back over the past 20 years, the positive impacts of globalization are obvious. Economic globalization has created 150 million job opportunities for developing countries. From 1990 to 2019, the number of people living in extreme poverty worldwide dropped from 1.9 billion to 650 million, a 60% reduction in 30 years. During the same period, global merchandise trade volume increased from $3.5 trillion to $25.3 trillion. The increase in international trade has led to lower commodity prices, making life better for ordinary people. Take the United States as an example. The overall price of consumer goods has decreased by 15 to 30%. Globalization has also promoted a more balanced distribution and flow of medical resources around the world. The global average life expectancy increased from 64 years in 1990 to 73 years in 2019. The vaccination rate for children in Africa rose from 20% in 1980 to 75% in 2020. The benefits of globalization for people around the world are countless. Then why, in today's world, especially in developed countries that set the rules and manage the process of globalization, are anti-globalization and counter-globalization trends so prevalent? Nobel laureate in economics Joseph Stiglitz, in his book Globalization and Its Discontents, pointed out that every country has winners and losers in the process of globalization. If the winners could share some of their gains with the losers, everyone's situation would be better. Unfortunately, the winners, as a group, are selfish. In the era of rapid globalization, politics is more often in the hands of the winners, especially in the United States, where money has a significant influence on political outcomes. Globalization itself is not the problem. The problem lies in how to manage it. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders has repeatedly mentioned that the 3 richest people in the United States own as much wealth as the bottom 170 million Americans. The top 1% of the elite in the United States own 90% of the country's wealth. The average salary of a CEO of a U.S. multinational company is 300 times that of an ordinary employee. While a few people have amassed huge fortunes, more than 85 million Americans have no or insufficient social insurance. 800,000 people are homeless. After adjusting for inflation, the real wages of ordinary Americans have not increased in the past 50 years. Faced with the predicament caused by globalization, many people have begun to yearn for and even want to return to the good old days. Some politicians have taken advantage of this nostalgia to incite populist and nationalist sentiments, attempting to package their internal contradictions as external threats brought about by globalization. Such an approach of treating internal diseases with external remedies not only fails to fundamentally solve the development bottlenecks, but also undermines the legitimate rights and interests of all countries, damages the multilateral trading system, and causes severe shocks to the world economic order and international cooperation, bringing huge chaos and uncertainty to the world and ultimately backfiring on themselves. In the face of the challenges brought by globalization, we should make full use of all opportunities, harness the power of inclusiveness and cohesion, and handle the issue of benefit distribution more reasonably and fairly so that globalization can gain more popular support and enter a new stage that is more dynamic, inclusive, and sustainable. Amid the complex and volatile global situation, China is making the right historical choices through its own actions. President Xi said that we are in a humanity of mankind, and we need to take each other as partners instead of rivals. We need to work in solidarity and cooperation for win-win. That should be the theme of the era. As I said, amid the complex and volatile global situation, China is making the right historical choices through its own actions, bringing more stability and certainty to the world. Between isolationism and reform and opening up, China firmly opts for the latter. In today's world, no country can achieve development in isolation. Promoting reform and opening up to higher levels is the source of vitality for China's development. Openness is a distinct feature of China's modernization. Strengthening exchanges and cooperation with other countries and jointly addressing global challenges not only serves the common interests of all countries, but also helps create a peaceful and stable international environment. Between unilateralism and multilateralism, China actively practices multilateralism. A multipolar world is both an historical inevitability and a new reality. Safeguarding and practicing true multilateralism is the ideological support for China's development. China will be a stabilizing factor in a multipolar system, and President Xi said that we need to build an orderly and fair international system. It is also what we expect from the international system. And China will remain a constructive force in a changing world. Between social polarization and common prosperity, China strives to achieve common prosperity. 3,000 years ago, Chinese thinkers proposed that the way to govern a country begins with enriching the people. President Xi repeatedly said that common prosperity should be an important goal of socialist modernization. We should always take meeting the people's new expectations for a better life as the starting point and ultimate goal of development. We will address the problems of regional, urban, rural, and income disparities step by step in the course of modernization. We will ensure and improve people's well-being through development and promote social fairness and justice so that the fruits of development will benefit all the people in a fairer way. Between clinging to the old and embracing innovation, China has chosen the latter. Strengthening scientific and technological innovation is the key to breaking through the development bottlenecks. The Chinese government is making efforts to provide young people with a broad stage for innovation, abundant resources, and a tolerant environment for trial and error, and encourage them to break conventions and explore the unknown. The recent half marathon for robots held in Beijing has been widely talked about. Although the robots did not run as fast as humans and only a few finished the race, looking back on this imperfect event many years later, people may say it was the great beginning of a technological revolution in robotics. Economic globalization is the result of the development of social productive forces, technological empowerment, market laws, and the deepening of international division of labor. It is an irreversible historical trend that is not subject to human will. We are aware that the development of globalization will not be smooth, but all countries should choose to shake hands rather than clench fists, tear down walls rather than build barriers, and connect rather than decouple. In the face of difficulties and challenges, what we should do is not to return to the past, but to join hands to shape a better future. As long as we stand on the right side of history and the side of human civilization and progress, and promote high-quality development through opening up and expanding international cooperation through communication, we will surely find a win-win path of mutually beneficial cooperation and make the pie of globalization not only bigger, but also better distributed. Finally, I wish this forum a complete success. Thank you all.
Thank you, President Shen. We will now hear welcome remarks from our co-organizers. First, please welcome Mr. Yu Yunquan, Vice President of China International Communications Group and President of the Academy of Contemporary China and World Studies. Mr. Yu also serves as Vice President of the Translator Association of China and the Vice Chairman of the International Culture Exchange Academic Alliance. Welcome, Mr. Yu.
感谢苗博士的
Thank you very much, Dr. Mabel. Chairman Wang Huiyao, Vice President Shen Xin, and President James Chau, Ambassador Zhang Jun, President Kang, and the Chair Declan Kelleher, Ambassador Declan Kelleher. Welcome to the China and Globalization Forum as a co-sponsor. We would like to welcome the representatives from the 60 countries and congratulate on the opening of the forum. And with the turbulent world, we can see hegemony, unilateralism, and protectionism are on the rise. World economic recovery is losing momentum. Regional peace and development are still in an uncertain time. In this month, the UNDP published the 2025 Human Development Index, which says that the human progress has slowed to the lowest level over the past 35 years. Earlier this year, the World Economic Forum published the 2025 Global Risk Report, saying that with technology acceleration, geopolitical climate change, demographic change, and other long-term structure change have presented us with a divided world. Global risk has become more complex and pressing. Uncertainty has become the prediction for the next 2 years by more than half of the respondents. And this forum focuses on global development in a multipolar world to respond to global concerns. The Munich Security Conference published 2025 Munich Security Report, which titled Multipolarism, stating that we are in a multipolar world. So multipolarization is of undisputable fact like globalization. What is the real multipolarization? What will it bring to the world? Eastern and Western people and global North and global South have different understandings, and the difference of multipolarization narratives will affect the prospect of the world. So we hope that at this forum, we can deepen understanding, build consensus, and reduce uncertainties. Just now, Vice President Shen Xin shared with us his ideas about globalization, like multipolarization. Globalization are still in work in progress. There are no decisive answers, but there are things that we can discuss together. I believe that real multipolarization is not reassigning geological regions. It is about reorganizing the civilizations so that each civilization can prosper. Real multipolarization is not about confrontation, but the coexistence of different development models. And we need to build such a harmonious ecosystem. And instead of putting an end to globalization, multipolarization means that we need to push globalization to new heights. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory against fascism and the founding of the UN. As a result, we are exploring coordination and cooperation in the world. Global South are on the rise. G20, the BRICS, the SCO, and other multilateral mechanisms are growing very fast. This is the result of human progress and a big symbol of human progress. Globalization and multipolarization are historical results. it also shows the solidarity, cooperation, and joint consultation of countries around the world. For this reason, the report from WEF states that 70% of the experts believe that lack of global cooperation will pose great challenges to economic recovery and growth. More than ever, we need sober discussions to explore ways of cooperation. But of course, major countries need to play a most important role, and the UN and multilateral organizations need to play a positive role, and think tanks also play very important roles. When meeting with His Excellency Kang-wha, Foreign Minister WANG commended the constructive role of think tanks in US-China dialogues. So ACCWS is also committed to promoting multipolarization and globalization. In our work, we wish to work together with CCG, headed by Dr. Huiyao, to contribute to the development of globalization and multipolarization and to a bright future of mankind. I wish this forum a resounding success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Yu. Next, delivering welcome remarks on behalf of our co-organizer, please welcome Mr. James Chau, President of the China-United States Exchange Foundation and the WHO Goodwill Ambassador for the Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. Chau is a seasoned broadcaster who has interviewed luminaries from President Jimmy Carter to Dr. Jane Goodall. Welcome, Mr. Chau.
Good morning, Your Excellencies and distinguished guests. It is, of course, a great honor to join you for the opening of this 11th CCG Forum, and I thank our hosts at the Center for China and Globalization, in particular, Dr. Wang Huiyao and Dr. Mabel Miao, for bringing us together at this crucial time. This forum is a platform not just for dialogue, but for honest confrontation of our shared challenges, geopolitical division, economic fragmentation, and growing uncertainty about the global future. These realities have tested our resolve, diminished trust, and made the path forward seem less clear. Still, no nation can achieve lasting success alone. In fact, the very challenges that divide us also leave our futures deeply intertwined, a reminder that sustainable progress demands that we recognize our collective responsibility to confront these obstacles, ultimately for the well-being of all humanity. This is why gatherings like CCG matter. They gather voices from across the globe and create space for purposeful dialogue to find solutions to the pressures we face today so that we may find a peaceful tomorrow. That commitment to share progress through mutual understanding also guides our work at CUSEF, the China-United States Exchange Foundation. Through the leadership of our founder, Mr. Kyung-wha, a businessman, statesman, and the first chief executive of Hong Kong, we bring a unique perspective to this mission, serving as a platform for exchange between people. For 15 years and counting, we've provided opportunities for students, scholars, and leaders to come together across borders and share ideas, challenge assumptions, and build relationships that outlast political cycles, precisely what we hope to support here at this forum. Together, over these 2 days, we'll confront the real consequences of a prolonged US-China trade war, revisit the structures of global governance, re-examine regulatory cooperation, and take stock of China's evolving role among the global South, Europe, and the Middle East. These discussions reflect more than policy debates. They speak to the everyday realities of people, businesses, and governments seeking predictability in a time of rapid change. While no single meeting can solve these issues, each meeting matters, and this one in particular offers a chance to do something rare, to listen across lines of differences and to build a shared framework that is flexible enough to evolve and firm enough to hold. But if we're to leave with something meaningful and carry it back to our communities, it will need more than participation. It will take a willingness to cut through noise and distractions. It will take courage to listen intently, speak honestly, and to forge new paths even when they feel unfamiliar or go against the current. And ultimately, it will take intention to bridge divides and face these complex challenges together. If we can set this intention and follow through, then this forum can become more than just another meeting. With the community we have built here, we have the opportunity to walk away with deeper understanding, stronger partnerships, and perhaps something more concrete, evidence that progress is possible. I thank our hosts and conveners, and I thank all of us for coming here with purpose, patience, and a commitment to something larger than any one agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chau. We now turn to our opening keynotes. Our keynote speakers will offer perspectives that frame the discussions ahead. First, please welcome Ambassador Zhang Jun, Secretary General of the Boao Forum for Asia. He is also a member of the 14th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, and a member of its Foreign Affairs Committee. He served as the permanent representative of the People's Republic of China to the United Nations. Welcome, Ambassador Zhang.
Dr. Wang Huiyao, Secretary General Miao, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to Dr. Wang, Secretary General Miao, and the CCG for inviting me to participate in this forum and to deliver some remarks. Dr. Wang gives me only around 8 to 10 minutes, so I don't take it economic to spend 2 minutes in saying how nice they are and how important the role CCG has been playing in promoting dialogues and trust among all stakeholders in the world. However, that said, I do wish to emphasize that for this year's forum, by focusing on globalization in a multipolar world, you do have make today's discussions a timely one and also a very much meaningful one. Indeed, today's world is faced with many, many uncertainties. While globalization is gaining more momentum, challenges are also emerging. And one of the big challenges, or we may say the biggest challenge we face today, is the trade war or the tariff war launched by the United States in a global scale. So I will take this opportunity to share with you some of my reflections. As the Secretary General of the Boao Forum, I'm supposed to present myself in English, but Secretary General Miao told me that she has provided some simultaneous interpretation. So to make sure that the interpreters are not jobless, I will present mainly my remarks in Chinese. 围绕关税战各方面的讨论呢，已经很多了。无论是从实际效果，还是世界各国的反应来看，美国挑起关税。
The tariff war has been the subject of extensive discussions from multiple aspects. It becomes evident that the tariff war initiated by the United States is destined to fail because of three things. First, misconception. The second is miscalculation. And the third is misconduct. I do not want to elaborate on these 3 points because I believe you all have your own understanding on 3 points. The rivalry over tariff war will continue to unfold. Although notable progress has been achieved in China-US consultations, which is a good development, the tariff war has already exerted profound and far-reaching destructive effects, both in immediate term and over the long haul. And as the situation continues to evolve, we must remain highly vigilant.
Obviously, now the trade war has gone beyond the economic dimension. We should take the perspective of global changes, and we should take the global perspective in viewing the trade wars. And we need to grasp the new trends and new opportunities. Actually, the trade war itself is part of the big change. The trade war has not produced the results expected from the United States. It means that the world is now changing considerably. The trade wars have testified to these changes and have even accelerated these changes. First, the balance of power globally is being reorganized faster. The global south is rising rapidly, playing a more important role in the global economic situation and order, and even decisive role. China's countermeasure against the U.S. trade war has shown 3 features. First, boldness to say no, to uphold justice. Second, have the ability to counteract. And third, maintaining its follow change. You the true at dynamism lies in being inclusive and tolerant to benefit more people and countries to reflect justice and fairness. Globalization should not be nationalization. Rather, the participation of all countries should. So we should work harder to promote connectivity across the board, safeguard the integrity of the whole world, and safeguard the stability of supply chains and build a more diversified supply chain pattern. We should also be more urgently promoting the diversification of international settlement and payment systems and strengthen regional currency and monetary cooperation and guard against financial risks. With the technological progress, we should also strengthen the sharing and co-governance of AI, strengthen the digital connectivity and capabilities in order to create better conditions for the upgrading of trade. And fourth, we need to strengthen regional cooperation to better support development. The global order and system is affected, and regional cooperation has become more and more important. So it means there will be more and more opportunities. So we should unleash the potential and dynamism of the new development cooperation mechanisms, and we should also strengthen regional and cross-regional policy coordination, including the connection of trade policies. Regional connectivity, cooperation, and integration is an important part of regional development. We should improve the supply chains. We should focus on the future and improve the trading rules of regional development as part of the complement to the global trading system as an important support for regional development. So obviously, regional cooperation and integration will have a more and more important role to play in the current situation. At the same time, we should also strengthen scientific cooperation, build capacity in the region, and promote green development and economic resilience. Over the years, we are facing all kinds of crises and challenges. The Asian countries, in terms of promoting growth, transformation, and cooperation, are taking the lead, and they are also showing strong resilience in the trade wars. So if we can turn the challenges into opportunities, I believe the Asian countries will be able to continue to take the lead in the world.
Emphasize that the World Forum for Asia has been always committed to promoting regional economic integration, regional cooperation, and fostering common development of this region and beyond this region. In the coming days, we will continue to make Boao Forum the best platform in this region in promoting dialogue, in promoting trust, and also in enhancing and facilitating cooperation. And we do believe if we join hands together like what CCG is doing, we can really make our world a better one. And I'm sure that having weathered the numerous storms, globalization in a multipolar world will eventually embrace some rainbows and eventually to embrace a more promising and prosperous future for all of us. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Zhang, for your opening remarks and the keynote. Thank you very much. Our second keynote speaker is Her Excellency Kyung-wha Kang, President and the CEO of the Asia Society and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. She previously served the United Nations as Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights and Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs. Please, Minister.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mabel, for that kind introduction. Distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to join you at the 11th China and Globalization Forum and to be given this opportunity to offer you some brief remarks at the opening. It would be presumptuous of me to say this is a keynote speech. It is not. It is a summing up of my appreciation and thanks to, first of all, Dr. Huiyao Wang and the Center for China and Globalization, CCG, as well as to Vice President Shen Xin and the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries for bringing us together, bringing such a distinguished group of thought leaders at this critical moment for the world. Indeed, we meet today at a time of much turbulence and uncertainty, when long accepted assumptions and beliefs about the global order are under assault, when realpolitik and conflicts seem to be gaining ground and globalization and multilateralism retreating. Personally, throughout my 3-decade career in public service and diplomacy, globalization and multilateralism seemed like an inevitable historical force, lifting all boats in its path. Markets opened, people moved, ideas flowed, economic interdependence and co-prosperity deepened. Indeed, coming from South Korea, where globalization and export-led growth fueled one of the most remarkable development runs of the late 20th century, it was natural to expect that this would continue. But today, the currents that once drove globalization seem to have been overtaken by the forces of fragmentation. Security concerns and trade tensions have dampened the aspirations towards an interdependent world where all would enjoy peace and prosperity. In times like these, it is useful to recall what globalization has brought the world. Indeed, Vice President Shen has given us a flurry of numbers that demonstrate that. But one figure he didn't give us is one that I would like to offer you. And this is a figure of how world trade grew between 1950 and 2022. Not exactly the exact period of globalization, but a large part of it, indeed, globalization flourished. And trade in this period grew by a staggering 4,500%. But we must also accept that globalization has produced both spectacular winners and tremendous losers. Both within and across countries, inequalities have deepened, fueling discontent and distrust, threatening to weaken and unravel the interdependencies which generated so much wealth and well-being for humanity. The discontent with globalization runs deep and wide in our societies, and this must be tackled with if we are to restore the confidence in an interdependent and globalized world, as well as to prevent the further fracturing of the world into blocks. This fracturing would not only stifle growth, it would also undermine our capacity to tackle global challenges such as climate change, public health security, AI governance, and sustainable development. Even before the re-election of President Trump, the IMF had warned that if the world fragments into competing blocs, say one led by the US and the other by China, global GDP would shrink by as much as 7% over time. The return of President Trump and the plethora of tariff hikes he has taken have only accelerated this trend. The hike has been the highest between the US and China, the two largest economies of the world. The recent US-China trade deal to mutually reduce the bilateral tariff by 115% for 90 days has been thus welcomed with a sigh of relief all around the world. But for this to be more than a temporary reprieve, the two sides must continue to negotiate and act to provide stability and predictability in the bilateral relationship. In the longer run, the world must draw on institutions that foster dialogue, deepen understanding, and encourage creative solutions, missions that have long guided my own work and that of the Asia Society that I now serve. International discourse, evidence-based understanding, and creative problem-solving are all sorely needed now more than ever. We at Asia Society work tirelessly to foster insight, elevate regional voices, and address complex, interconnected challenges. Across our global network of 16 locations, we bring together not only policymakers and thought leaders, but also creative artists, cultural ambassadors, and young leaders from across the Indo-Pacific. And based on our independence from governments, we offer nonpartisan, pragmatic solutions. 2 years ago, to help policymakers and other key decision makers to better grasp the complexities of one of globalization's most pivotal players, China, we launched the Center for China Analysis, CCA, under our Asia Society's Policy Institute. CCA's mandate is to illuminate the multifaceted complexities of China's political, economic, and societal changes. With nuance and objectivity, CCA helps decision makers distinguish signal from noise and better comprehend not only what is happening in China, but why and to what effect. Today, legitimate concerns about supply chain vulnerabilities, economic inequality, and job losses are fueling economic nationalism and securitization and driving divisive policies not only in the United States, but also in Europe, China, and elsewhere. But we must be careful not to throw the proverbial baby out with the water. We must recognize that globalization delivered unprecedented benefits, historic poverty reduction, economic convergence between rich and poor nations, and the creation of a global middle class. Despite headlines about de-risking and deglobalization, we must recognize that global integration continues, albeit in a more fragmented, complex form. And we must recognize that short-sighted, ill-considered retreat into isolationism and economic nationalism would harm all nations. The global economy splintered into blocks risks lower growth and fewer opportunities for all, including developing countries. A divided world also diminishes humanity's capacity to tackle overarching challenges. So instead of nationalistic retrenchment, we must aim to design new resilient systems that balance openness with security, market efficiency with shared prosperity, and innovation with sustainability. And to catalyze such a new vision, we need spaces for honest dialogue across geopolitical divides. And even as governments compete, institutions such as the Center for China and Globalization, Asia Society and its Center for China Analysis, and other think tanks must convene forums such as this, where policymakers, scholars, and business leaders can discuss seminal issues candidly and constructively. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, though the post-Cold War order may be fracturing, the future is not predetermined. The same creativity and cooperation that once built bridges between East and West, North and South, can guide us toward a better future. And I have every confidence that this endeavor will be greatly enriched and advanced here at the 11th China and Globalization Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Kang. Finally, please welcome Ambassador Declan Kelleher, Chair of the Governing Board of the European Policy Center and former Irish Ambassador to China. Ambassador Kelleher has held senior posts in Washington, D.C., New York, and Dublin, and chaired the EU Political and Security Committee during Ireland's 2004 EU presidency. Please, Ambassador.
Madam Secretary General, Mabel Miao, President Wang Huiyao, Vice President SHEN, Vice President Yu, President Chau, Ambassador ZHANG, Minister Kang, distinguished guests and friends. I find myself in agreement with the broad thrust that everything has already been said so eloquently. So let me just add a few additional points from the perspective of the European Policy Centre. Let me first congratulate, on behalf of the EPC, excuse me, the organisers of the conference and the forum, which is very well designed, and its agenda correctly and very topically captures the challenges we face. Let me also say from a European perspective that it is a matter of some celebration to us in Europe that China and the European Union enjoy a deep and well-founded relationship that this year sees the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties. And this major milestone also underlines that the EU-China relationship is an important positive force in the world and should be developed further. The relationship between China and the European Union is solid and multifaceted, and it's a basis for building on convergences and agreements, and it is also robust and strong enough to manage and seek to resolve differences between us where they exist. The forthcoming EU-China summit in July will be an important opportunity not only to celebrate, but also to reinvigorate and relaunch the China-EU relationship. And it will provide a globally important example, in my view, of mutually beneficial partnership. As the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said recently, for the European Union, stability and predictability for the global economy are of vital importance, even more so in face of the widespread disruption caused by the tariffs set by the new US administration. Ursula von der Leyen also said that she sees Europe and China as two of the world's largest markets, and in that context, they have a responsibility to support a reformed trading system founded on a level playing field and the multilateral approach. Let me briefly single out some of the new developments in the EU. One is that the European Union is becoming and is developing a more geopolitical view. The challenges that the European Union are facing are also changing the European Union. We already have a program of reform in the EU for economic and industrial reform on the basis of a report by the former Italian Prime Minister, Mario Draghi, who was also President of the European Central Bank. But I want to single out three aspects of particular relevance and priority in the European Union at the present time that I'd like to share with the forum. The first is that, unfortunately, the outbreak of war on our continent through the illegal Russian aggression against Ukraine is existential, not only for Ukraine, but also for the European Union. And it is the dominant issue on the agenda of the leaders of the European Union. It has been the first and dominant item at every meeting of EU leaders since 2022. It is also the primary prism. This challenge, this existential challenge, is the primary prism through which the European Union currently views the world. Secondly, and in consequence, the European Union has mainstreamed and radically developed its approach to its defense through devoting resources and expenditure, and also becoming more self-sufficient in defense. And thirdly, as well as the security challenges, the recent turbulence on trade and tariffs is leading to a more autonomous approach by the European Union, a more assertive approach, and a more geopolitical approach by the European Union. All of this in the EU's approach is based on the multilateral principle, and as the founding EU treaty sets out explicitly, this is in full respect for the principles of the UN Charter. Central to the European Union's view is the importance at this time of upholding a just and stable multilateral order, something which previous speakers have talked about, where the principles and provisions of the UN Charter, including the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by force and the generally accepted principles of international law, are core organizing precepts and principles. And these principles must apply to all conflict situations, wherever they are, not only in Europe, but also in the Middle East. The European Union is in foundation a peace project. It brought stability to Europe, and it has forged peace among former enemies. It is a unique legal collectivity where 27 sovereign states have agreed to pool large parts of their sovereignty and make themselves subject to the primacy of European Union law. And this remains an attraction for other states in Europe. 12 states are currently waiting to join the European Union, have applied to join, including Ukraine. And enlargement of the European Union is in itself crucial to promoting European security, and the very fact of enlargement enlarges the European zone of peace, but also the vast European single market, which is itself a force for stability, not only in Europe, but in the world. So it is against this background, dear colleagues, that the EU is developing its geopolitical and geoeconomic role, and it is against this background also that we should seek to develop the EU-China relationship, not only for mutual benefit, but also to promote the international peace and security that both the European and Chinese sides want to see brought about as we embark on the next 50 years of this most important relationship between China and the European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. All those welcome remarks and opening keynotes have set the stage for a rich exchange of ideas. Let us now proceed with the day's discussion later. Over the course of the next 2 days, we will explore the major challenges and opportunities shaping our interconnected world, from global governance and geopolitics to sustainable development. We also encourage everyone to actively engage, share ideas freely, and listen with openness as we work together to build bridges and deepen mutual understanding. Thank you all once again for being here. Later, let's have the tea break and ask. So, thank you.
同时，我们现在邀请所有的刚才的
And now we would like to invite all of the distinguished guests to come to the stage for a group photo.
Speakers, our opening speakers, to the stage for a group photo.
下面我们有请王慧耀理事长、沈新副会长与